Hello and welcome. Welcome to my work. I'm author and coach Grace Rolson. If you are in a custody battle with a narcissist or co parenting with a narcissist, you are not alone. I'm sorry you're going through this. I endured a 12-year family court battle and it was horrible. It was hard. It was over our only child. And I'm here to help you with sharing my survivor wisdom. So, whose advice do we take in a custody battle with a narcissist? You'll see my newest book, Wisdom for Ending the Custody Battle with a Narcissist, and the co parenting war that goes with it. Um, I learned some strategies that were beyond just tips and legal advice, and I call them skillful means. Just a quick disclaimer, this isn't direct advice. You can pause the screen and read this in full. This is take what you like, leave the rest. All cases are so different, and you really need your lawyer's advice. I'm not a therapist or a court professional. I do have a video called Know the Narcissist for moms required to co-parent with a narcissistic ex. So go check out that free video on my YouTube channel. You can like and subscribe. I'm here to educate, encourage, and empower women and mothers. I say learn all you can because knowledge is power. You won't step into the narcissist's tricks and traps and fall for the tactics and the manipulations if you are aware and equipped. So, thanks so much for watching. My background is Loving and Leaving an Alcoholic. If you're listening on Spotify, I'm glad you're listening. There's a lot of free podcasts that you can listen to. I have 6 books for moms, and I always say read them in order. From Co-Parenting with a Narcissist, 7 Self Rules to Stay Sane, because you will need your sanity through the insanity, to Wisdom for Ending the Co-Parenting War and the Custody Battle. And there's all those books in between, Fighting and Course. So my story went in phases. I've had 3 lawyers. I spent tens of thousands of dollars. It was all very hell and hard, and I just wish I knew today what I wish I knew back then what I know today about narcissists. Of course, I didn't know he was. I just had an issue with his drinking at the time, and my lawyer told me this. We were dealing with a narcissist, which is why we kept recycling and repeating in family court. The narcissist was never happy. So if you've been to family court once and you won, don't assume that it's the end. Or you've been to family court twice and you've lost, don't assume it's the end. We've had so many emotions. I endured a 5-day trial, and then eventually I ended up negotiating with the narcissist and getting everything I wanted. And those newer books tell you how, but I think the first books lay the foundation. You've got to be able to label the tactic, document strategically, be stepping into your rights, getting legal guidance and advice. So there's a lot that goes into this. And just another disclaimer, but a key, that what works for one of us won't work for all of us. So much depends. So, who do we take advice from? I wouldn't take advice from a tax attorney or a family law lawyer who just started out. An experienced family law lawyer giving you input on your case would be more beneficial than a lawyer just starting out who believes, the family courts are about fairness, it's and justice. It's not. It's a legal system, not a justice system. So there's a lot to learn, and you don't want to have to learn it the hard way. Also, you don't wanna take advice from experts who haven't gone through it. If they haven't lived through it and come out the other side, or they're just trying to, start a business, and if you're posting on social media and they're posting what to do, but they haven't taken in all the factors, where you live, how much money you have, can you afford to fight in family court? Is your ex dangerous? If you win against him, will there be severe consequences? And, I had to be careful about where I took advice. When I started out, someone had been a paralegal in family court for 20 years, and they told me, "Oh, he will never get, unsupervised time. He's an alcoholic." Well, guess what? He got unsupervised time. He had no DUIs. It was something I said. It made me look crazy because I had no evidence. There was nothing to back up what I was accusing him of, which he knew. So she was wrong. Even though she'd been there for 20 years, she had been out of it for like 5 years or more, and father's rights had taken over. It wasn't about the mother taking care of the baby, it was becoming 50 equal rights. So you will need some of your you will need to trust yourself on some of this. If somebody's advice is just so high above what you can do or what you think will play out, I mean, you have to maybe take words of wisdom from people who have been through it and then concoct and create your own way of dealing with your situation. Even when I was selling a house and everyone gave me an opinion, do this, do that, I could only take like one thing from everyone. I couldn't do what one person said, all of it. I mean, it just was too expensive. And so same thing in these situations is watch out from where you're taking advice. You could post just a couple paragraphs and people want to help, so they give you this well-meaning advice. It could be smart. They could be saying like they said to me, document everything. So I took to documenting everything the narcissist did, and that not only drove me crazy, that had me looking at him way too much, and we were not together. So I was now just focused on him, and it was so upsetting to see how much he got away with, how much he was doing that was harmful and wrong to our child. So I had to switch to documenting strategically. So be careful of taking anyone's advice, uneducated advice. It might be smart. Yeah, document everything and that way you have it. But now you're overwhelmed with documentation and you can't even organize it and you can't even bring it forward. So what do you document? I do have a documentation guide, but again, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know all the details of your case. So my guide explains what should you document, where should you get that information on what to document, because I can't, I mean, generally, there's things to document, um, in general, like, no shows for sure, late for sure, but there's things that you might not wanna document, like every bump and bruise. You would think that every bump and bruise, but then I brought that forward and it just made me look like a micromanaging mom. I mean, there's bad advice saying, "Call CPS, call, Child Protective Services." And it looks like an obvious thing to do, but if you've already called 8 times, this is the ninth time, and that went against me in family court, to be constantly calling Child Protective Services, asking them to protect our child from the father who was given rights in family court. So, we have to remember who we're dealing with. We also have to remember that family court really isn't equipped to handle narcissists who abuse their children in secret and lie um, and attack the other parent with lies. So family court isn't equipped for that much high conflict, and child protective services often doesn't recognize emotional abuse as something very serious. I mean, children are running away and they think like something's wrong with the child, not what the child is running away from. So these systems are not adequate in all situations to detect who's the abuser, to get the children away. So, advice for one person might be so harmful. What worked for me may not work for you, which is why I always say I can't give advice. I don't allow for posting of advice, because we don't have the whole story. So a lot of times their moms are like, take them to court. Well, if you take them to court, you then spend thousands of dollars. You start a court battle. He goes for, more time or sole custody based on lies. There's so many long-term consequences. And so we have to watch out for being desperate for what to do, which is why I tell moms to just get a continuing education on all things narcissist. If you are dealing with a narcissist, co-parenting, and you're not in the custody battle, you may be someday. Or if you're in a custody battle, it could go on and on. You think it's over because you won and he crawled under a rock or whatever, but they can come back and using lies. So I do talk about how to document in a helpful way for the lawyer. making it easy. I mean, if you're not a technological person, you may not be able to really embrace using technology to document. You may have to do things in a more simple way. So, you may have to just educate yourself on documentation. I teach the use of skillful means now, which is using ourselves skillfully and dealing with the narcissist skillfully. I teach these higher levels of non-resistance, non-attachment to de-escalate, diffuse, and disarm the narcissist. Because if the narcissist is getting parenting rights in family court, we'll most likely have to deal with them long term, and just winning against them once doesn't mean they go away. They're very retaliatory and vengeful. So moms have to accept things in order to get to some layers of peace and levels of peace that they just didn't want to accept. But we can often suffer over the fact that we're suffering. So I teach the use of skillful means. We've got to deal with ourselves skillfully. I have a website with a lot of free articles. You go look under the blog. I have a free Navigate Around the Narcissist newsletter that comes with a podcast. And I also have a podcast on Spotify that gives you my tips, tools, and strategies, which are in my books. I say learn, heal, and grow, and keep being a great mom. Watch out for taking advice. I mean, this is why I have moms consult more than one family law lawyer, because the first one might tell you everything you want to hear and cost $50,000. And the second one might be more realistic and say, like, you could spend all your money, but he's still at the end of the day going to get parenting rights. So it's important to like get 2 or 3 consultations, and then check in with yourself. I have a guide called Document the Narcissist that tells you where you would want to learn what is relevant in your case, that you might want to focus on, like the top 5 things. You could come up with 10 things and narrow it down to the 5 things that you will document as they come up. So you're pre-planning, you're strategic, you're not getting overwhelmed, heavily focused on your ex, building your own leverage, and you're not driving yourself crazy documenting everything. Um, sure, you can work to document everything, but you're living a life with a log of your ex, and that can be so. The part that documenting everything doesn't take into account is, how will this affect your mental health? If documenting everything and watching the narcissist and seeing how much he does that's wrong to the children or gets away with financially affects your mental health, you may have to become more strategic so that you don't get so stressed out. So, and what matters to a judge doesn't always match what matters to us moms. If you read my guide, it's like what a judge cares about, what the judge's pet peeves are these. What your lawyer thinks is important that they'll bring forward are these things. What we're upset about is, like, the knots in the child's hair, that we have to actually cut the child's hair because they were so neglected on their father's time, or things like that, or the bumps and the bruises the child got playing unsupervised in a harmful way. I mean, those usually I would document. But if you've got like 3 boys and you're documenting every single bump and bruise, and things can go against you. We never know how a judge is going to look at us moms. So it's important to, a lawyer will try to make sure our image doesn't come across as a micromanaging, overly worried, complaining mom that is part of the high conflict. We want to keep our kids safe. So if you're a loving, caring, protective mom like me, your child's safety is number one. And so I have a lot of videos on my YouTube channel. If you don't have a lawyer and you need to interview lawyers, I have a 20-question attorney interview worksheet included. You might not use all the questions. Like, sometimes you ask, do you take high conflict cases? And if the person says no, and every time you ask that question, no lawyer will take you, you might not end up asking that question, because it's turning off lawyers. They know what it means, a lot of time and energy and very little money. So all the questions on there are not set in stone. You have to tailor everything, including the advice you get from lawyers. And, the best advice is to get it from the lawyer that you pick, you trusted, that has a strategy. Because if you start taking advice from people who don't know your lawyer's strategy and you're going against what your lawyer plans to do, that could be harmful. So you have to line up with your lawyer's strategy to protecting the child or the children. And that can be hard to do when everyone's telling you, and especially in your family, to do one thing, but they don't understand family court. They don't understand the narcissist. So we really do have to discern and sort through all the advice thrown at us and take what's, going to help our case that is in line with our lawyer's strategy while trusting our gut instincts about other things. So if this was helpful, you can like this. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next video. Keep learning, healing, growing, and you can outgrow the narcissist.